After all that, tripping over me. Okay, let's go back to the birth of Lynne that day.
Oh, yeah.
Labor.
My water broke.
We were at Mom's at the time.
Yeah, I was getting labor pains, and he worked in his father's business. So I called him up, and he came and got me, and we went to his mother's. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I started to get pains, and my water broke. And it was snowing. Remember that?
Yes, flakes just.
It was starting to snow. She was born December the 6th. And we snuck out of the house and got into the car. And suddenly we hear a voice from the rear yell, "Norman, if you leave without me, I'll never talk to you for the rest of my life." That was his mother. He says, "So long, Mom," and we went. We left her. And I remember she was born at the doctor's hospital. I think it was 17.
And Spruce.
Yeah. And it was, I'll never forget that. When you came to the hospital, you had to sign all these papers, and then they put you on an elevator. Their elevator was like a cage.
At a front gate.
And when they closed the gate, and I looked down, and the thing was going up, and I see him standing there looking at me, looked like I was going to the death chamber. I was so frightened. It was my first child. But anyhow.
So he didn't get, fathers don't
They
go
wouldn't
with
let-
you at that point.
No, he just watched me go up on that elevator,
wouldn't let me.
scared to death. And he did express the thought that he would like to have had a boy. So he went to his brother's, they didn't know how long it would be
at the
those
drugstore.
times. And he went to his brother's drugstore. His brother had a drugstore at 49th and Chester Avenue. And they called you there.
Yeah.
And they said, "You have a little baby girl." And he says, "Oh, shit." He has choked on those words since, because he adores her, and he's the happiest man in the world to have had girls. Really. And then he said, "What am I saying? What am I doing?" And he dashed out and came right to the hospital.
What was Lynne named for?
Lynne is named after my grandmother, whose name was Lila Pearl.
Her name.
Yeah.
So his name.
Oh, her name, my grandmother, I'm sorry.
It was he, she.
Yeah. So she was cute as hell. She really was. And of course, the first 3 years, she was without her. The first year, he was there. But when he went into the service, so she didn't know who her daddy was, just the picture.
Now, do you remember, can you remember what it was like to leave
To this
your wife
day.
and kid and to go to the service?
Yes, I do remember that very clearly.
I walked out that morning. It's hard for me.
That's a tough time,
Yeah. Oh, horrible.
Tough now.
I'm sure.
And she was holding Lynn on the stairway, going upstairs. And I looked at him and I kissed him goodbye. Of course, you never knew you were coming back again. And I walked out of the house, and I walked down 12th Street to the subway.
He had to go. Those days you didn't have no cars.
And well, car wouldn't.
Yeah, had a
go
car.
around.
Yeah, no, he's going.
And I took the subway and then went down to the terminal, to the station, 30th Street station, where I met 4 or 5 other guys. I was in charge of a group to take up to Indiantown Gap.
New Cumberland.
New Cumberland, excuse me, the induction center. But I went, I remember. It was tough. It was damn tough.
What about seeing him go? Do you remember?
The worst. I was so scared, and he says to me, "If I come home, I don't care if I have to come home without a leg or without an arm. I just want to come home." Oh,
I'll be back.
yeah, I'll be back. And he did. He did. So, but they were such hard times. It's so hard. We try to explain to our children, but I guess it's just as well that the children of today don't understand. You see, it's not like this war here. Everybody is busy going out to dinner, having a good time, dancing. They don't know from borscht. The boys are getting killed over there now. When he was in the service, There wasn't a family that didn't have someone in the service. He lost a cousin in the Air Force. I lost 2 cousins, one in the tank and one in the Navy. I mean, it was not easy times. We were rationed with everything. We were rationed with tuna fish, sugar, gasoline. The times
Blackout.
were so...
I was an air raid warden for about 6 months.
Both of us were air raid wardens.
Yep.
And when we would have the blackouts, the whole city would get black. And before we went in the service, we were air raid wardens that we used to check and walk around to see that nobody had their lights lit.
I was a sector warden.
Yeah. And they were scary times.
Well, back to Lynne for a second. What kind of kid was she? Her
She was adorable, adorable. She looked just like Margaret O'Brien. Do you know who Margaret O'Brien? No. Margaret O'Brien was a movie star, child movie star, that had long black hair and plaits. Well, Lynn, I used to fix her hair all the time, part it in the middle and long plaits. And everybody used to say, oh my God, look at Margaret O'Brien. She looked just like her, adorable. Pitch black hair, big black eyes, and a mouthpiece on her.
Yeah, she was a good little girl, but boy, she didn't take no crap from nobody.
Yeah, but she was a good little girl. She was so cute. I used to have such a good time. And then when he was in the service, I decided I wanted to get a job. I wanted to make some extra money. So, because the money was really tight then. What did they give us? Nothing.
When I went overseas, I got $45 a month.
So,
I was getting 20, but they
street,
gave us an extra 15 for going overseas.
across the street was a specialty shop, because my parents had the business in a business section. So I went over there and I got a job. And that job was 8 o'clock in the morning till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Those days, that's how a sales girl worked. And I would come home. My parents took care of Lynn. And I would come home lunchtime. And I'd put her for a nap, give her her lunch. And then I'd come home dinner time, give her her dinner, give her her bath, put her to bed. Because he didn't want me to work. So he didn't know it was I didn't want him to know. He said, it's enough she's not going to have a father. I don't want her to know she don't have a mother. But the fact that I worked across the street was fine. But she was an adorable little girl, pretty, cute, smart, like the kids are today.
And then Lois comes
And then Lois comes along, and when I came home with Lois, we lived in our little house already.
Any circumstances around her birth, like labor with her?
With Lois, yes, I remember very clearly.
You swelled up or something, your eyes or something. I got mad as hell at the doctor.
When Lois was born, they gave me some medicine for after birth. And suddenly my eyes just blew up, got all red, and they found out I was allergic to these pills. And do you remember in the hospital you stole a banana off the tray?
Oh, you know.
But anyhow.
I came in Race Hill with the doctor. I cursed the hell out of him.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
And she was an adorable little baby. And when I came home with her, I sat Lynn on the sofa and I put Lois into her arms. And I said, see this? This is your sister. You're going to treasure her for the rest of your life. So I did that. When Leslie was born, I put the 2 of them on the sofa and put Leslie in their arms. So far, so good.
What kind of child was Lois?
Lois was different. Lynn was a Bren. She was...
Oh, you have to explain what a Bren is,
yeah,
right?
She was like full of... Lois was very quiet. Lois was, yes, Mommy, whatever you like, Mommy. And I used to get mad because I used to say to her, you like those shoes? And she'd say, if you like them, Mom. Lynn would say, no, I don't like them. I like them better. And I'd say to her, no, I want you to tell me what shoes you like better or what dress or what. No, whatever you like. She was very, very easy, very soft-spoken. She was named after my father. My father's name was Louis. And she was named after my father. And she was very much like my father, very low-key, not soft-spoken, and everything will be fine.
How did they get along as sisters?
Wonderful. Lynn was 5 years older than her. So Lynn, she always was the mommy.
It still is.
And still is. She always was the mommy. She loved her sister. You know, they say sometimes you have a jealousy. No, she never was. Every once in a while she said, well, she's the good daughter, you know. And as they grew up, it became a joke that Lois was the good daughter and Lynn wasn't, but they both were. And then Leslie was born, and she was born 2 months premature. And I did the same with Leslie and put them in both their arms on the sofa and said, Treasure, this is your sister.
Did she stay in the hospital longer than you did?
Yeah.
Yes, 6 weeks. She was in the hospital
Incubator.
6 weeks. Excuse me.
And she
She
did
was
knock
like
the hell out
this
of me,
big.
wasn't
She was like 4 pounds, and she had a little piece of hair here. And the nurses used to put a ribbon in this piece of hair. She was so big. It was, figure a 4-pound piece of roast. You know, she was just so little. She didn't have no fingernails. And 6 weeks later, I took her home. And it was hard. I had to feed her every 2 hours, day and night.
And they grew up in a nice neighborhood. They grew up in,
Yeah,
Leslie was born in Darby.
Yeah, Darby.
Yeah, they were born in Darby, and they got along
And they
with a
were
lot of
cute.
kids.
I dressed them all alike, like I showed you.
Yeah, is that translated to you two here? Dressing like.
Yeah, it's like what happened is that one year for Father's Day and for Mother's Day, the kids bought us polo T-shirts and polo jackets to go with it, the same. So wherever we went, somebody made a remark, oh my God, it's so cute. So then the next Mother's Day and Father's Day, they bought us another one. So we had about 4 different outfits, the same. And I used to take them away with us, and it made such an impression. So lots of times we do it unconsciously. Today I did it consciously. Yesterday I had lime green on. Next thing I know, he's all dressed. He's got lime green on. So the lady in the lobby says to me, what's this, dress-alike day? I said, I didn't know he was wearing that night. But after 60 years, 64 years, you get to think like the other person.
So the sisters growing up, what?
They were adorable.
How did you raise them? Were you like, like your parents raised you?
Norman was tough. Norman was tough.
He was the tough one.
He was the tough one. Although Lynn said one time, I said to her, you know, I was easy too. She said, Mom, you were never easy. And I had certain rules. I knew I had 3 daughters, but they had to know to wash the dishes. They had to clean up the kitchen after dinner or breakfast or whatever it was. And they had to help. They had to chip in. This one had to empty the trash. This one had to make the beds. And they had their chores to do. Sometimes they didn't like it, and sometimes they didn't want to, but that was the rule of the house. And then when my mother came to live with me, they knew if we went away for a weekend, before we came back, my mother had them crazy. They had to make that house shining before we walked in. So, of course, you know, they were good in school.
They had a good childhood. They had everything they wanted.
They were good in school. They had their quirks, didn't do their homework sometime, you know, like most kids, and maybe didn't make such a great mark in something. And
They were all college graduates.
yeah, and Lynn told me she was having trouble with her Spanish teacher. I'll go back, I was like 30-some years old. And I said I would go to talk to the Spanish teacher. And I spoke to the Spanish teacher. I went in to speak to the Spanish teacher, and she was in class, Lynn. So I walked in the class, sat in the back. Lynn had a question to ask the teacher, and she walked up front to ask the teacher after the class was over. And the teacher gave her a nasty answer, and I was there. Did I give it to that teacher afterwards? Because I said I wanted to see for myself. are you sure that you're not making the teacher crazy? I never was the kind of mother to say, oh, my child would never do that. And I remember she was so embarrassed, but she said, Mom, she said, that Spanish teacher was the best teacher in the world afterwards. And what I wanted to bring out is that she didn't realize I was the mother.